Hi, year 11. Sorry, I'm late. Today's topic, 16 of 16 topics, is all about stakeholders and their interest and influence in a business environment. Quite important that the exam specification expects you to know who the stakeholders are, what their interest in the business is, and finally, how they can influence their impact on the business by doing different things. Happy with that? Good. Next slide. So your exam's going to probably ask you to define stakeholders. It's a 2-mark exam question and it's quite straightforward. I would say that any individual, person or organisation, business, who has a vested, or you could say invested, interest in the activities and decisions of a business doing well. So it includes lots of different people, and today's little mini video on this should, in the back of your heads, paint a picture so you can believe and remember who they are. So, stakeholders. We already know, because I've already said the definition, individual people or groups of people who want the business to do well. I'm going to talk about the main different types of stakeholders, internal, external, and there's probably an opportunity for you to actually do something after this session if you want to extend your knowledge in your own time. But I will say one thing. Most stakeholders will be personalised to a different business. So depending on what the business is, they'll have different stakeholders. But this is an important point. If it's a 9-mark question on stakeholders, remember this. Ultimately, the business, whatever it is, should try and keep all their stakeholders sweet. You don't want some stakeholders kicking off and having a go at any one time. So remember that, keep all your stakeholders sweet. So, if I was a year 11 student revising stakeholders, I would have 2 lists. One of internal stakeholders and one of external stakeholders. The internal stakeholders are what, Archie?
Within the business.
Excellent. Whereas the external stakeholders, Michela?
Outside the business.
Outside the business. Well done. So you can remember all that from the beginning of the year 10. So examples are in the business, workers, employees, supervisors, managers, shareholders and business owners. And of course all those people in the business can have an impact. How? Massive impact. Day to day they're going to work to run the business. Day to day they're going to do great things to make the business great. Day to day they're going to have a positive impact on driving customer service, driving sales, and making the place a better place for everybody to enjoy. So massive impact internal. However, external people we can't forget about. And the list is, look, 3 times as long. We have customers. We have suppliers. We have the government who want tax. We have the local community that wants to get more good services in the local community. We've got competitors that want to be put under pressure to do even better for their customers. There's also pressure groups that are trying to say, do this properly, do that properly. There's trade unions that are trying to get better conditions for workers. The media, newspapers, radio, all want good stories and good advertising revenues. We've got banks that want to lend money to businesses. And don't forget, we overpass these first 2. Customers want great services, good value for money, good quality, and suppliers want to sell more products. So all those people want something out of the business. So, this could be a shocking 4 to 6 mark question. What's the difference between a stakeholder and a shareholder? I put it on a slide so that you can actually visually see it. A shareholder owns the business, or a small share in the business. They also might work in the business. So I might work in a big toy shop in London, and I might be a worker, but have a share in the business. I might play football in the local football team. I might play for the football team professionally, and I might even have shares in the football team. So shareholders might also be workers. And some companies give workers shares in the company. Tesco's are famous for giving their workers shares in the company. Whereas stakeholders might not be shareholders. Stakeholders are anybody who's got an interest in the business doing well, but might not own a part of the business. They may work for the company or may not. So it's a subtle difference. Shareholders are stakeholders, but stakeholders may or may not be shareholders. Got it? And after this little video, you might want to think about a business of your choice and list the stakeholders, list their interest in the business, and list what influence they can have. And very quickly, I'm going to help you with the last part before we go. For instance, shareholders and owners, they've invested their money in the business because they want to see a big return and a bigger share of the profit. So these people want more profit. They've risked their money, and in return they want a reward, which is profit. They also want to see the business grow, and they want to see the business run properly. Their influence, which we haven't got on the table, is the fact that if they like what they see, they could invest more money in the business. And by investing more money means the business can grow even further. Or they could take their money out of the business, which means the business will close. So shareholders and owners have a massive influence on whether that business grows or closes. Managers and employers are slightly different. Managers and employers are running the business and are rewarded for doing great work in the business. So increasing sales, increasing profits, managing standards, improving service. But they're responsible for the day-to-day security, working conditions, standards of the business. And anything that they do to motivate workers or improve working conditions, standards, is going to be massive. So these people have a massive impact on the business, and they're interested in getting rewarded for their effort as well as their pay, bonuses, plus the other things. Their influence is huge because if they actually leave the company and go and work for another company, that other company might compete better as a result of having these great workers. So you want to keep your workers, reward them, train them, keep them. You don't want them to be walking away. And if you reward them, train them and keep them, then the influence they have on the company is huge and could actually grow the company even quicker. And on this slide, finally, customers. Well, customers you all know. You're all customers. You're all customers in different things. You have mobile phone contracts, you go shopping for hair products, you go to fancy hairdressers, you all go and buy probably mineral makeup, you all probably go out for dinner at a restaurant with your other halves and your families. You're all customers. And you all want the same thing. You want good quality service, high standards, you want to be looked after, you want value for money, and you all want to feel good spending money in a company. And your influence is very powerful, probably the most powerful out of all the stakeholders. Because if you don't get what you want, what are you going to do, Archie? If you don't get looked after, if you don't get value for money as a customer, what are you going to do?
I'm not going to shop there anymore.
You're not going to shop there, top answer. You're going to take your money somewhere else. You're going to punish the business by walking away and going somewhere else. Because if that business doesn't look after you, they don't deserve to have you as a customer. Simple. And if everybody walks away, that business shuts very quickly. So look after your customers, love them well. We've got a few more. Suppliers. Suppliers just want to supply great products into stores and shops and restaurants and cafes so that people can actually trade and make a good living. And the bigger the business gets, the more the suppliers are going to sell raw materials into that business. So suppliers want to be able to supply more stuff. Suppliers want to get paid on time. Suppliers want to make sure that their supply chain is getting better, not worse. Banks, slightly different. Banks want to supply money so people can grow their business, invest, and take their business to the next level. But a massive impact, banks. If banks take their money away and your money disappears from the company and you have no money and the banks withdraw their money and their lending, then that business will close very quickly. Cash flow, remember Unit 2, banks take away the cash flow, the overdrafts, the loans, the business will close very quickly if it hasn't got its own money, retain profit or savings, or other sources of finances. And again, like suppliers, if the supplier takes away their supplies, if Apple iPhone suppliers take away the chips from Apple, Apple then has to go and find other chip suppliers for the iPhone 6s Plus, for the iPhone 7, similarly Samsung. So you've got to look after your suppliers. as you've got to look after your financial lenders. The government, they're a massive stakeholder, because they want paying on time. They want tax from your profits. They want tax from your people's wages. They want national insurance contributions. They want VAT tax on collection on luxury products. And if those companies aren't growing and selling lots of stuff, the government's not taking lots of tax. And you know from previous videos that the government uses the tax to run the country. Influence of the government, they can put the tax up, so you take more tax, or they can put the tax down and take less tax. But they can control how much tax people pay in companies based on how good the economy is. If the economy is poor or in a recession, the government might need to tax more. If the economy is boom, boom, aga, boom, the government might tax less. So that's the government level. Local communities, well, you all live in different towns and villages. You want to go into town or the village at the weekend to find nice shops, nice bakers, nice butchers. And you want to make sure when you go in those shops that those shops are going to carry on being open, so you have to get a bus or a train to go to a bigger town to get what you want. Local community also want those businesses not to pollute, not to cause inconvenience, not to break the law, and not to change the culture and ethos of the local community it works in. And finally, for those people that are going for the big A star, if you're going to go and get the big A star on these kind of questions, you've got to be able to talk about the conflicts between different stakeholders. So for instance, if you're going to cut jobs to reduce costs, that's going to be great in the eyes of the shareholders and the banks because there's going to be more money flying about for them. But it's going to be dreadful for workers, employees and the local community who are going to find lots of people out of work. If you're going to add extra shifts to keep the factory open, longer hours, like BMW, might have 3 shifts a week, that's going to be great for the management, the customers and the suppliers because there's going to be more stocks produced. But it's going to be dreadful for the local community because you're going to have lots of people working 24/7 and noise and all the rest of it, traffic. If you're going to introduce new machinery to replace manual workers, that's great for customers because they can get more stock, and it's great for shareholders, but sadly, employees are going to lose their jobs. And if you're going to increase the selling price of products to improve profit margins, again, great for shareholders and management, but those increases in profit margins are going to mean the customer has to pay more. So for those A-star, A-grade persons, people that are going to go for their conflicts, and understand the conflicts between the different stakeholder groups, then that's something you might need to consider. And then finally, for those AA star people, although everybody can have a slice of this cake, to get those 9-mark questions in the bag, you need to be able to explain in detail why a business might have chosen different particular objectives at this stage of the development, and how those different objectives are going to have an impact on different stakeholder groups. Because unless you can actually look at stakeholders in relation to different businesses in different stages of their product life cycle, and when I say different businesses, I mean businesses with different aims and objectives, then you are going to struggle to get those big answers. But you do need to bring that back, aims and objectives and stakeholder groups, and link it back to the fact that stakeholders all have different interests in a business, and you also need to be aware and explain why stakeholders in the same business may have conflicting interests to get the marks for that subject. So hopefully stakeholders is now a lot clearer than it was a few minutes ago. And I think that finishes off, so cue cameraman, that finishes off this topic on stakeholders in a business.
Like, subscribe, comment.